What if peace begins with you? Not as a concept or philosophy, but as something you can practice in your body and in your mind right now.
Have you noticed how when the world feels heavy, like now, with news of violence, loss of life, polarizing debates about health and safety, our nervous systems move into worry, urgency, fear, and reactivity? What happens if instead of turning away or bracing ourselves or getting looped into the anxiety and what I like to call, and what you have referenced before, Jessie, spinning, we pause and come back to this moment, the present moment?
In times like these, when so much feels out of our control, what if peace begins with each of us inside, reconnecting to the choices that we do have control over? Thanks for joining us today at the Healing Medicine Podcast. Who are you listening to? I am Dr. Jessie Mahoney, and my co-host is Dr. Ni-Cheng Liang. We are two board-certified physicians who bring decades of experience to the conversation about wellness. If you crave more ease and aspire to rediscover your love for medicine and life, one mindful step at a time, you are in the right place. We hope you'll love today's episode, and if so, please share it. A reminder that nothing in our podcast is medical advice. Welcome to today's episode. What if peace begins with you? How to stay present when the world feels heavy. This episode was inspired by the first session in my advanced coaching group this week. And participants share one of the tools that's working most effectively for them. And someone who had coached with me a couple of years ago referenced a tool that I teach in yoga and that hasn't come up at all recently. And it's a kids yoga teacher training tool called Peace Begins With Me. And she said that this tool was the most useful, enduring tool that she had learned at a retreat and is still practicing it almost daily. And in particular, in challenging situations where things feel so out of our control. And another physician in the group, when she heard this and heard us talk about it, said that her biggest takeaway from the group was that peace begins with me, and that she could do this mantra in clinic every day as something chaotic happened, or a patient brought something unexpected, or a colleague calls out sick, or whatever it is that's interrupting your day that's unexpected. Peace begins with you. And so what this mantra is a finger tapping with acupressure points. And so it's the thumb and the index finger, and then the thumb and the middle finger, and the thumb and the ring finger, and the thumb and the pinky finger. And then you go back the other way. The index finger and thumb, middle finger and thumb, index finger and thumb. So when we do this in yoga teacher training, you tap one and you say, peace begins with me. Each word you connect 2 finger pads. And you say it 3 times, and you say it out loud, and then as a whisper, and then silently in your head. And it's a absolutely beautiful practice, I think, for adult yoga as well. And I encourage you all to try it. You can try it in the ER. You can try it when your children are having temper tantrums. And in this moment where we find ourselves in medicine, as well as in our country, in a state of ongoing collective stress and uncertainty and a tremendous amount of grief and disbelief, peace begins with you helps us stay present and peaceful in real life when the conditions are not ideal.
This episode is an invitation to the now, into presence, not to bypass, but as a place where choice, agency, and peace are possible, even in the midst of all of these complicated emotions and circumstances like grief, uncertainty, bearing witness to suffering in a very complicated world right now. So, what does peace begins with me really mean? We'll start off with what it doesn't mean. It's not denying pain, it's not denying difficulty, anxiety, or the suffering that's happening around us and also within us. It's not forcing white knuckling palm and zenness. It's not toxic positivity. It's a practice. It's a reminder that peace is something that we can practice inside of ourselves. And it's not something that external sources in the world give to us. So for me, in this time of my life and in the state of the world, with the news of ICE raids, being a person of color as well as an immigrant, having mixed race children who look more Asian, I am, of course, on edge. I have self-compassion for that edginess. Also, on top of that, with cold and flu season upon us, many patients, even though I see a similar number of patients every day in clinic, my patients are way sicker. And also the amount of phone calls and messages every day has exponentially increased. And 99% of my patients right now have respiratory infections. So my stress level is quite high. But while all of this is happening, while it's swirling around me, not inside of me, I'm recognizing I have to actually intentionally practice peace. So setting aside and protecting and prioritizing time for activities or the lack of activities that bring about calmer physiology, but I have to be very intentional about choosing it. So lately, like in the last 48, 72 hours, I did a restorative brief yoga practice, and there was a beautiful slow cello composition that I found, and I've been listening to it a lot. I've also been doing a lot more mindful hiking, sometimes with a friend, sometimes by myself, but not with any extra earphones or not while listening to a podcast, for instance, really enjoying the presence of noticing walking and noticing the nature around me. And then also incorporating more intentional practice of restorative yoga, allowing myself to be held by the ground, by bolsters, by pillows, by being comforted by a blanket. If I do not practice peace, I know I have a tendency to get caught up in the whirlwind of anxiety and catastrophizing.
So, presence is where peace is found, and it's in the moment, in the now. And that's where our choice and agency return. When we're not in the present, we lose our agency and we lose choice. So when we are worrying about the past or the future or planning, it's pulling us out of the now. And we often don't feel at peace. What could happen, what might happen, frustration about what has happened. And this isn't to say that we don't also have those feelings. We can be angry and have peace at the same time. We don't have to approve or agree or condone, but we can still find that peace within us by being in the present, in this moment. And the peace lives in the body
and in the breath. So we can all uniformly accept that there is this collective stress. We don't have to argue that there isn't a collective stress. And presence is how we can choose to respond rather than delve into our automatic reactivity. When news reports are conjuring up difficult emotions like fear, anger, uncertainty, where do you notice that in your body? What are the body sensations? And could the first step to practicing peace simply be the acknowledgement of that very natural physiology of noticing?
And peace begins with me, and the noticing of it is not white knuckling. It's not resisting how you feel, and it's not reacting. It's a very soft practice that's impacting your physiologic state. And that's really what Peace Begins With Me is about, is how can you use your physiology and your mind and body at the same time to help you be in the present. That's the mantra of touching the fingers. You have to pay attention to do it. And you are setting an intention with each finger tap. It's giving your mind and your body something to do, so that you can get out of this spinning, out of the distraction. It can support your paying attention and your nervous system beginning to regulate. And so that's why there is this mantra. But even if you're deciding, how can you find peace within your body? And recognizing that this is very much a physical practice. You mentioned restorative yoga, which is a physical practice literally of peace. And I just want to remind our listeners that there is a podcast about 18 months ago about restorative yoga, how it works, why. It's really designed to be nervous system yoga. And we talk a lot about regulating your nervous system here. That is what mantras and this idea of committing to peace within yourself is about, regulating your own nervous system. Not bypassing and not overriding how you feel, allowing the feelings while staying regulated. So a few ways that you can use this is to use it silently between patients. I love teaching it to kids, and kids can actually remind us in moments when we are not showing up peacefully. Maybe you should do the finger tapping, Mom. And so thinking about, do you want to set that intention, peace begins with you, at clinic? Do you want to do it when you're on call? Where can you set peace as an intention? And could this mantra help you?
So, inviting you to check in with yourself now, taking a few moments to think about what activities or lack of activities, like maybe even some silent time, offers you calm and groundedness. Like, what do you already notice about practicing peace? Like, what will help enable you to practice peace more in the future? And inviting you to schedule it, just like as if you had an appointment, doctor's appointment to go to for your own health and well-being. So that's one thing that I've been doing more of. The other thing is to build it into what I call the in-between times, in between from one activity to the next, or driving from one place to the other. Like now I'm listening to very slow cello music when I'm driving in the car. Today I went to school 3 times with my kids. It was quite a hectic day, but in the in-between, I had been practicing peace. Mm-hmm. Mindful walking in between my morning and afternoon patients. That's also how I practice peace day to day. Loving kindness practice in the morning, hand to heart. May I be well. May I find peace. May I be happy. May I be free from harm. Sending loving and kind intentions to yourself in the morning only takes a couple of moments. And then also when I'm doing my mindful walking, being very intentional about opening my heart. So when we're in healthcare, in very busy jobs that involve technology, We're oftentimes hunched over computers, our phones, and so we have a very kyphotic or kind of hunched back posture. But what if when we're walking, especially when we're hiking or doing our practice for peace, you can take your hands and clasp them behind you at the small of your back, puff your chest out, and look upwards towards the sky, similar to some of the yoga poses, for instance, that Jessie teaches. And then also expansive breaths. Another quick way to practice peace is to optimize your own physiology and activate the vagus nerve when you take really deep breaths, especially when you drag out your exhale breath with pursed lips, like as if you're blowing out birthday candles. That also can help you practice peace very quickly.
And nature helps you practice peace. So I'm going to put in a little plug for Connect in Nature, where Nicheng literally teaches almost all those practices she just mentioned. We do small group workshops, and you teach literally all of those things. And so if you want to learn how to do that, join us. And a reminder that nature is something that helps you find peace, whether or not you're also practicing mindfulness. But if you practice mindfulness in nature, you get both. And what nature does is it helps to regulate your nervous system. And so when your nervous system is regulated, you're finding peace in your body. And when your body feels peace, it can help your mind find and feel peace as well. And so for some people, they can't get to peace. Peace feels very stressful. It's too far away. But when you begin to feel it in your body in practices, whether that be yoga or forest bathing or sound healing, often helps you with peace. Sound healing is something that I offer at Connect in Nature and at Nicasio Creek Farm. And I have to share, I'm into digressing today. My sweet husband got me the coolest random present, which is a new sound healing instrument, which is not a rain stick, but it's a rain drum. And it sounds very much like a creek in its rain. And so when a lot of the sound healing instruments work on your nervous system by working on frequency and by mimicking sounds in nature, so that you can be lying down on practicing restorative yoga on your bolsters while getting the sound effects of nature. And for many of us who find it hard to tap into peace or find it hard to regulate our nervous system because we are so often in fight or flight, or we feel so threatened either by the current world today or by working in healthcare today, sound healing can be a way to access that nervous system regulation when you can't do it otherwise. And while our practices are, of course, the best, you can also find lots of sound healing in your local yoga studio. And I encourage you, if you've never done it, to just take a risk and go. It's a really beautiful experience.
So, what do we do when we are faced with just shocking suffering and witnessing really, really inhumane atrocities that are happening? We can remain present. We can remain present in our truth of how we're experiencing that difficult news or difficulty in bearing witness to that suffering. So staying with what's true to you right now. I bring in again the circle of awareness from mindfulness practice, noticing the body sensations, allowing those body sensations to be there because they're already there, naming your emotions, and then noticing your thoughts about that difficult piece of news. And witnessing all of this can help maintain peace and help you remain present to what is. And so that present moment noticing can be an anchor. If it's too overwhelming for you, which a lot of what is happening can be quite overwhelming, you can ground into your present moment experience with your environment. Dr. Steve Hickman, who was one of my first mindfulness teachers and executive founding director of the Center for Mindfulness at UC San Diego, taught me this when I first met him during Cancer Survivor Day, of noticing your feet. So that quick moment of checking in with your feet is an opportunity for a literal moment of grounding.
And I will put a link to the podcast where Steve Hickman joined you on this podcast, talking about his book around self-compassion. Worth a listen. It's an oldie but goodie. It's one of our most listened to podcasts, as I recall. I often borrow from you who taught me about noticing your feet. So the grounding that I find and what helps me ground are my sit bones rather than my feet, and hand to heart. But knowing where your grounding is, and when I'm outside in nature, it's usually not my sit bones, unless there's a comfy spot to sit. It is usually your feet. And so in different settings, you might notice what works better for you. Another significant component of finding peace within is finding peace in community, collective peace. And for most human beings, a sense of peace is not an isolation, alone type of thing. And so that is why many people enjoy practicing mindfulness and yoga in community, small groups of community. Some cultures practice in groups of thousands. They do prayer in groups of thousands and prayer and mindfulness in huge settings. Other people like small settings, but shared practices may help you tap into a sense of peace with other human beings and the connection and sense of community. So weaving that into trying to figure out how to find peace within and remembering that that's a tool. This concept of peace within you also weaves in a concept that was taught in my yoga teacher training, which is ahimsa, which is do no harm. And ahimsa is doing no harm to yourself and others. And that is a big piece of peace begins with you, is this idea that when we show up in an activated nervous system state or being reactive, not at peace, that reverberates out, ripples out to other people, and can have a not peaceful impact on other people. And so when we regulate our own systems and when we find peace within us, whether that is telling generous stories or having a healthy nervous system, that we are actually sending out ripples of peace farther and wider, which is one of our original intentions in creating this podcast years and years ago. I also love to take the peace begins with me mantra and change the language. So sometimes it's kindness begins with me. Sometimes it's freedom begins with me. It could be love begins with me. And recognizing that we get to choose the emotions that we want to bring with intention outward towards the world. And that when we change what's happening within us and the energy within us, whether it is peace, presence, calm, love, connection begins with you, healing begins with you, that impacts other people. And it allows us to stay out of victimhood, recognizing that we are all victims of certain things, and there are many victims out there in the world as terrible things are happening around us, and that we can choose to be victims and be disempowered in this moment, or we can choose to be empowered in choosing our response. And just a reminder that this isn't about emotional bypassing. It's choosing how you can feel at peace so that you can choose an empowered path forward.
So we'll end with our usual series of questions for you, dear listener. Where are you seeking peace outside yourself right now?
What does your body need in order to feel a little more settled? What feels within your control today, even if it's tiny? Which words feel supportive right now? Peace, kindness, love, healing, connection, safe.
How do you want to show up in this moment, given what's actually here? Peace doesn't mean that the world is peaceful and calm. It can mean that you choose to practice it and can remain calm and centered and grounded regardless of what is going on with the world so that you can choose your response. Peace begins with breath. Peace begins with awareness.
Peace begins with practice. Peace begins with community. Peace begins with you. We hope that you will opt in to practicing peace, and we would love to have you join us in practicing many of the tools mentioned in today's podcast at Connect in Nature in July of 2026. I would love it if you want to join me for yoga, where I have often shared this practice and mantra, peace begins with me. We practice it in real time, and it's a chance to work on regulating your nervous system. And if any of you want to join me for coaching, where this conversation was re-inspired to bring back to your awareness and to our awareness, it's a fun way to explore practicing peace in your life and finding ways to feel empowered amidst a chaotic healthcare system and a currently chaotic world.
Hire me or Jessie, or even better, both of us, to practice peace with you and or your organization.
Thank you all so much for taking the time to listen today. We greatly appreciate you spending time with us. We wish you all much peace, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening. If our message resonates, we'd love to connect further. Join us for coaching, mindfulness experiences, workshops, and retreats. Invite us to speak at your institution or conference. When you work with us, you don't just consume information, you create real change. Find me, Chang Liang, at Awakened Breath, and Jessie Mahoney at Pause and Presence.
Bring mind, body, and spirit into the same spot. Connecting to your breath and focusing on the present, the here and the now. Peace begins with me. And given all of the news in the world, and even for many of us, news in our lives, things that are going on that may not be complete, long lists and things that need fixing and solving and doing, we can still connect to this sense of peace. And peace, just like acceptance, is not condoning or forgiving or resigning ourselves or giving up. It's actually empowering ourselves. finding the feeling of groundedness, the steadiness of the earth beneath, and letting the earth's energy rise up through your spine, up towards the sky, and nourishing yourself with the inhale and the exhale. Letting the breath be an inhale of peace and calm. And the exhale, letting go of those things that you cannot control. For you all who are like me in the fixing, managing, controlling category, can you just let it go? You might wish it were different, but you can choose to let peace begin with you. Letting a peaceful nervous system be what you bring to the world today, to your family today, to the important people in your life today, and to yourself today. Letting yourself be the one who shows up with deep breaths and steadiness rather than reactivity. And recognizing that peace can begin with you, whether it's in a busy clinic or a call day, chaotic shift, toddlers, aging parents who aren't doing well, children scattered across the globe. You can choose how you feel in that moment, not bypassing how you feel, but also recognizing that peace with whatever is begins with you and can empower you to show up in the best way possible for you and those you love, and a safer and healthier and more sustainable world. It doesn't mean we don't speak up or do anything or get anything done. It's simply the energetic force to which we bring ourselves to all of the tasks and all of the news and information surrounding us. When you show up calm, grounded, standing tall and elegant, what we have to bring in moments of challenge or crisis or chaos around us is much more powerful. It doesn't mean we are perfect. It means we're buoyant, resilient. Don't like that word, resilient, buoyant. On the stormy days, we just float. We might get sucked under, but we come right back up to the surface. So ask yourself what things might look like if peace began with you. And it's that willingness to just sink in and allow whatever is to be there. It gives you back your grace, compassion, and elegance as you move forward. Thank you all so much for practicing with me this day. May peace begin inside each of us, and may we spread it outside towards those we love and towards the greater world. Namaste.